Welcome to the Monday Nudge. Today I'm going to talk to you about opportunities. I think that this is a moment in time where if you've been really focused on producing your business playbook, the playbook that maps out 2023, you are 100 paces ahead of 99% of your competitors. And the reason that I say that is we're only sitting on Jan 23, so third week of January, and already you can see that there's a divide into two. Those with the plan, those that are winging it, just like they did last year. Now, the big difference going into 2023 is we all know it's going to be turbulent. I tell you what, a lot of people don't realize though, is that it's not just turbulent in the UK, it's turbulent right across Europe and right across the US. If you think about it, coming into 2023, we've never had the interest rate hikes that we've had for like 10 years. Inflation, interest rates, the whole enchilada is meaning that businesses are starting to make decisions based on being protective, i.e., being risk averse. So it's the characters that are looking at everybody battening down the hatches and saying, there's a few opportunities here. And there truly is. So I've had probably a dozen conversations since the turn of the year with businesses that are thinking about turnaround, i.e., they know that their situation isn't as buoyant as they would like it, and they'd like to turn that situation round. Not to be confused with turning around companies that are on the brink of the abyss. There's enough of those guys out there, and unfortunately, if the cash flow isn't good for the next 6 to 8 weeks, you are not going to get the cash flow out of banks and all the rest of it, because where you could borrow and recalibrate the debt, restructure the debt last year at reasonable levels, now they're not making the decisions to lend, which means if your cash flow has been more than tight over the last 3 or 4 months, it's time to really think about what you're doing with the business. Now, if you are in that situation, it's not the end of the world. It just means you need to make a decision sooner rather than later. And that is to pick the phone up to a turnaround specialist. So at the Sales Masters Guild, which is one of my companies, we've got some absolutely first-class business mentors that know how to turn a company around, how to do the financial engineering. Now, it's not rescues, because I think the rescues, unfortunately, are going to have to go straight to the insolvency practitioners. So if you are feeling that your cash flow is getting tighter and tighter and you're worried about the next 3 or 4 months, I highly recommend that you go and find a really good mentor to help you to turn that business around. But opportunity-wise, I think you need to be gregarious. Gregarious works in business. The opportunities truly are there for those that have tightened the model, as I was saying earlier. So I think there's a huge amount of opportunities if you look in the right direction. And again, if you really don't know where that is, you go get a business mentor. Go and get someone that's got solid background in building businesses to sell, or has been working with people that build businesses to sell. Because when you build a business to sell, you have to structure it in a very different way than a lifestyle business. Because lifestyle businesses are always managed to be, shall we say, tax efficient. And when they're tax efficient, it often inhibits their growth. So people get with a lifestyle business, they get to a kind of a glass ceiling, and they just sit there for year after year after year. Whereas businesses that have been built to sell, and ideally they've started that process 2 to 3 years out, those guys are engineering it to maximize the profit in the business, to inflate the value of the business. When I say inflate, I mean in a positive way, not a negative way, because when you're being super tax efficient, you're not showing all your profit, because you want to be tax efficient, don't you? But when you're selling a business, the buyer is not interested in the blood, sweat, and tears that got it to this point, and the 100 hours a week and working till 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, as some business owners do. What they're interested in is buying a business that they can be money back within the next 2 to 3 years, which is why most businesses, and this is generic, most businesses are worth between 2 and 3 times its net profit or EBITDA. That horrifies most businesses or business owners when they come to sell, because they're thinking their business is worth a multiple of its turnover. No, it's not. It's really not. But if you want to build through 2023 and have a business that is more profitable and its value is higher, you really need to be putting the work in now. And as I say, the fastest way for us all to grow and to flourish is to have a mentor in that has been where we want to go. I've had mentors for years and years, so I know I'm banging this drum a little bit hard on the mentors, but seriously, if over the last 3 years your turnover has been give or take 10% and your net profit is give or take 10% or sliding in the wrong direction, it's time to get somebody in. Time to really look at that business from a different angle. I mean, I've talked to 3 different businesses that last year had their best year in a long time from a turnover perspective. From a turnover perspective. What they didn't have was their best year ever from a profit perspective. So the question that I always ask is, okay, if you had a cracking year in turnover, but it didn't really relate to the bottom line profitability of that company, your company, if we had a time machine and we went back in time, what would you do different, knowing that you're going to turn over more money this year, but potentially earn the same or less than you did the year before? You probably start making some very different decisions. You probably start looking at efficiencies of productivity. Are we spending our money in the right places? Are we paying too much for certain elements, components that we source to provide the service that we provide? Are we charging enough? Now, charging enough is an interesting concept, in so much as most people are too scared to put their prices up because they're going to lose customers. Well, I read a report not so long ago that said they'd done a research of 1,000 different companies. And from the research, if you put your prices up by 20%, I'm not saying you should put your prices up by 20%, but if you did, and you lost 10% of your client base, huge proportion, you'd still make more money. I know it's nuts, but work it out for what it is that you do. So that's it from my Monday nudge. I will look forward to sharing with you again.